tell the world you're trapped in your creepy van. So you find an overpassing, tell them you're the ice cream man. Blue lights are blinking, 4 o'clock in the morning. Only one got a call, but the others all stink. Better call Saul, better call Saul, better call Saul.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is It's All Good, Man, the Better Call Saul podcast. I'm Brian, and with me here, as always, is my co-host, Dave. Dave, how are you doing this evening?
I feel like an alpine shepherd boy.
Nice. Dave and I also co-host the Nothing Important podcast. You can find that at www.nothingimportantpodcast.com. This week on the Nothing Important podcast, we actually have Eric Barkley from the Tugboat Coffee Company. It's an interesting interview where he talks all about roasting coffee, how to pick coffee beans, and the really intimate details of the entire coffee roasting process. Please make sure to go to nothingimportantpodcast.com and check out that interview.
Fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. It was awesome. The It's All Good, Man is also brought to you by Audible.com. Audible.com has over 150,000 audiobooks that you can download to your MP3 player, iPod, what have you. Make sure to go to itsallgoodman.com, click through the link, and download Bob Odenkirk's new book, A Load of Hooey. You can get that as your free trial. You can listen to it. Bob Odenkirk, of course, is Jimmy McGill / Saul. Thought you were going to say something there, Dave.
I was just readjusting my microphone. But I will add that Bob Odenkirk, if you don't know, is a writer as well. He's written on many sketch comedy shows. So I'm sure a wordsmith like that has put together quite the novel.
Absolutely. So go to itsallgoodman.com, click on the Audible link, sign up for your free trial, and get Bob Odenkirk's book for free. Dave.
Brian.
A lot happened in this episode.
Yeah. Well, first off, the trailer, the upcoming scenes from next week's Better Call Saul was kind of full of shit.
Yeah. Threw us for a loop. What was that, AMC? Yeah. Here we are. We're making this podcast to promote your show, and then you do something like that for us.
Bullshit.
Right, because when we watched it last week and we did Preview with a Prior, which always comes out at the end of the week, where you and I just have a short discussion about the upcoming episode.
Which we base pretty much solely on that little scenes from the next upcoming episode right after the show airs.
Right, and it last week, it didn't have some of the scenes on it that it had for the replay before tonight's episode.
Yeah, so it's like 2 minutes before the freaking episode starts, and we're like, holy shit, there's new scenes, mate, whatever.
Right. Absolutely. So Dave and I kind of missed some of that on Preview with a Prior. So, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. All right, Dave. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning of the episode. The cops come to Chuck's door because the old lady called the cops on Chuck for stealing her paper.
So, taxpayer money. That's what I was thinking. A 50-cent newspaper. Not only did they acknowledge her call, but they also sent the police to settle the dispute over a 50-cent newspaper.
Right. And, he even makes the comment, I left $5 for her. The newspaper costs 50 cents.
Right. But I guess it's just completely a matter of principle. Like, you do not steal in New Mexico, which is bullshit because I've been a victim of theft.
For those of you who don't know, that might be new to our podcast, Dave has told the story a couple times where his car was broken into and somebody stole an acoustic guitar.
Smash and grabbed at a steakhouse right off of 40.
And they didn't leave you $5, did they?
No, they didn't leave me. No. They didn't.
But that was Chuck's defense. He said, hey, I paid for it. I gave her the $5, but the police, brought up the point, like, did she give you consent to purchase the paper from her?
Right.
And there was no recourse from that.
He went into a lengthy description of the law, which the police used as time to go check out the rest of the house, and it's just set off a whole series of events.
Yeah, and a lot of good escalation there. I mean, Chuck has this whole allergic to like electricity, like electronic hypersensitivity,
electromagnetic hypersensitivity,
right? And what could be the worst possible thing that happens to somebody that is quote unquote afflicted with that?
Being tasered.
He gets tasered. Such a great way to open the episode. What I liked about that is all I could think of was, man, Jimmy fucks over another person. Like
he's like General Sherman, just going through,
right,
leaving a wake of destruction a mile wide,
scorched earth. Right? He just keeps fucking people over.
I guess it's the path to hell is paved with good intentions, because he's really not a bad dude. He's just trying to get something going,
right?
And yeah, just nothing works.
poor slipping Jimmy. Nothing works. I did like how well, after we saw the new on the next episode of Better Call Saul on the encore presentation before this episode, it showed the police trying to enter his door. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, what could give the police possible justification to bust the door down? And then the one police officer goes around back, looks through the window and sees that he tore out the wire with all, and has all the fuel for the lanterns. And they think he was a tweaker.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking,
throwback to Breaking Bad.
Right, yeah, that's what I kept thinking. Like, oh man, like there's gonna be like some sort of Breaking Bad reference, and then
it reminded me of Jesse Pinkman's house.
Right, and then it never happened.
Right.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. Travis, the listener who does the photos of locations used in the show, he actually brought up the point that when he lives in Albuquerque and he's a listener of our podcast. Make sure you check it out through our website. But he actually brought up a kind of an interesting point. The house that they film as Chuck's house is actually right across the street from the house that they used as Jesse Pinkman's house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So if you want to see pictures of that, make sure to click the It's Saul Goodman on location link on the website.
Whoever runs that neighborhood association is raking us some money.
Right. Huh? Right. Putting them on the map. So they think that they see drugs. They bust down the door because Chuck is despondent. You know, he doesn't want them to come in. He's trying to explain to them, like, hey, you got to leave.
Right.
You got to leave everything with batteries.
Yeah, he's telling them, like, yeah, don't bring anything to protect yourself in with you when you come to get me.
Which is probably like the worst thing that a police officer ever wants to hear. And
exactly.
I love as soon as he says, and no tasers. I can't, definitely not tasers.
They just whip them out.
Whip them out. He gets tased. And then I believe that was the opening, right? Mm-hmm. So then they open, and the opening credits again. It was like the weird 1980s low production, and it was a billboard on a bus stop bench
on the bench, yeah,
for Better Call Saul. So then, as the show returns, we finally get to see
his new clientele.
Right?
Apparently, the demographic that watches the news is kind of little old people and crazy people.
Right. Well, it was a sensational story that he set up, so as people that I guess buys into the sensations. So
the first client that he goes and visits is Big Ricky.
Big Ricky.
On his plantation or whatever he thinks he is, 1,100 acres.
Right, like the real life version of Foghorn Leghorn.
Now I say, I want to secede here, boy.
And that guy couldn't have been more stereotypical.
Oh, yeah.
More stereotypical if he tried. He had all the...
Oh, that guy's got a gun rack in the back of his truck.
Well, he had all the Hummers out front.
Yeah, the overcompensation vehicles and the safari animals stuffed all over the place. Absolutely. And I was kind of looking at it. I thought maybe there'd be something with the fact that, like, Ricky had a lion over his head and Chuck had an antelope over his head.
Right, but...
Did you notice that?
I didn't, did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you think that means, Dave?
I think if I were to read too deep into that shit, it would be that he is the hunter and Jimmy is the game.
And how does that apply to?
I don't fucking know. Because he turns out to be a loon and Jimmy just walks away.
Yeah. Well, it looked like they were setting Jimmy up for his big payday.
Yeah, no, they keep doing this. I love it.
Because, like, no matter how ridiculous the idea was, like, I love that he said, he goes on his tangent about, being the oppressive government and being taxed and all that. And he lets out, well, what I want to do is basically become the Vatican City of the United States and succeed from the Union. And Jimmy's just there for the money. So he's like, yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I can do that. And then it was like setting him up for a giant payday. $1 million with $500,000 up front.
Oh my God.
And then it was some big Ricky bucks.
Yeah. It got me too. Like, I totally bought into it. When he brought up the tray of cash, I was like, this is it.
Right. Because here's the beauty of this. Like, we all know how this ends up. And so obviously it seems really apparent that in Breaking Bad, Saul is on the down low, but I mean, he has to amass some sort of wealth from his deeds.
Yeah.
You know, so we were thinking, okay, so he took the bribe last week. Oh, this is going to be his first major payday. And then it just cuts to him escaping the ranch.
Which I guess, you know, as long as they can keep doing that where we enjoy it, you know, teasing us.
Right.
Because you know it's coming and they keep teasing it. And it's been good so far. I haven't really been disappointed with playing with that the means to the end.
No, not at all. So obviously, probably not going to take that case. Probably.
Big Ricky turns out to be full of shit.
And speaking of full of shit, we go to Roland J. Cox with Tony the Toilet Buddy.
Tony the sexually suggestive toilet buddy, I guess you could say.
the sex toilet.
Which, okay, I want to make a comment about this. Mm-hmm. This is what I noticed about that scene. Okay, so Tony the Toilet Buddy is the creator has written all these suggestive things completely ignorant to what he's doing.
Oh, it's so big.
Which reminds me of Tobias Futgay
from Arrested
Development, who was played by David Cross, who used to have a show with Bob Odenkirk. So I'm wondering if this is he definitely wrote that. Bob Odenkirk had to have written that part.
Right.
And that's so, it's just that whole little...
It's just like some inside joke, like a little wink and a nod to David Cross.
Yeah, absolutely. So bravo.
Yeah. And I love how long they drew that out too, because we were sitting here in the Dave Cave. We're actually recording from Dave's house, so we were sitting here in the Dave Cave, and the whole time I'm just like giggling like a little kid, like hee hee hee.
Oh yeah, Chandler, drop it in there.
It's so big. And I love that they had a confrontation when they were walking out of the house.
Yeah.
Arguing about it like, you're sick. Like, I hope it makes you a lot of money because Chandler's going to need it for therapy. That was great.
So then after leaving Roland J. Cox's toilet surprise experience, he swings by Mrs. Strauss's place, a nice, super old lady with one of the most long, awkward scenes I think we've come across so far.
The chair buddy or whatever it's called coming down the stairs.
That's very similar stylistic to things they would do in Breaking Bad also. They had these really long, awkward scenes where you're just waiting for something to happen.
Waiting and waiting and waiting. And then she gets off the chair, slowly walks across the room.
Slowly walks up. When she gets the money out, she counts it $20 at a time, real slow.
And that is his first official step into elder law. I like how excited he was to actually get $140.
Right, yeah. Like, oh my God, I'm actually going to get cash in hand.
This is it. Like, this is it. I'm getting paid. Like, this is my legitimate money.
As a freelance audio engineer that's just starting out, I know the exact feeling.
And then it just kind of skips from there. It doesn't really show too many more of his clients. We kind of find out later that he ends up doing a couple wills and a living trust as he's on a date with Kim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's painting her toenails.
He was.
Like a good guy friend does? Boyfriend? Whatever.
Jimmy's friend zoned?
I don't know.
Because it's obvious that they have some sort of affection towards each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Right? I mean, there's definitely something there, and they keep hinting at that, especially with, like, the phone sex thing. Remember, like, robot sex voice? So I'm hoping that sometime we get a flashback to their relationship to see how they
please
meet.
But when they're doing it.
Oh yeah, she is kind of good looking.
She's getting hotter as the show goes on to me for some reason. I think in the description she seemed like she'd be a total bitch.
Yeah.
From like the character releases that they did, how she's like super aggressive and like, you know, goal oriented.
Right, but she's not at all.
But no, she's on kind of on his side.
She's very sympathetic to Jimmy. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of like an insider voice. She's almost like a double agent at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's almost like I don't know, like a devil's advocate is not the right word, but maybe like a liaison or somebody that bridges the gap. You know, she's the voice of reason, I guess, between the two sides.
Right, and I like how
which is kind of like Saul's character was at times in Breaking Bad. He was caught between, and even now Jimmy McGill is caught between opposing factions a lot of times, and that's talks his way out of it.
So it was nice to see them have more moments together, though.
Yeah, and they're getting more and more intimate. The moments that they have.
Right, and then this just keeps, like, obviously, because once again, we know how it ends up. Like, I keep trying to play it forward. Like, I keep trying to think if there was anything in Breaking Bad where Saul ever mentioned some sort of love interest or a woman that he loved who helped him out immensely.
Right.
But to my recollection, he doesn't. The closest thing that I could think of in Breaking Bad is when he propositions his secretary at his office,
Who wanted nothing to do with him.
who wanted nothing to do with it. So I'm pretty excited to see how that ends up over the course of the season and of the series.
So then we move on to the next part where your prediction was confirmed. In my opinion, your prediction was confirmed.
In my opinion, it was also.
Fact that Chuck's ailment, you can now put air quotes around it officially, because it is completely psychosomatic.
Yeah, it's all mental. And you know what? I got to be honest. There was points where I was like, okay, I was way off base. Like
Right.
maybe this is some sort of real illness.
Right. And they sent me some mixed signals today. I would say this because going back to the very first, the very opening or even the closing of last week, when Chuck gets upset and reaches for his blanket, like Linus, as you said,
From Peanuts.
Like he sees the blanket as comfort, which Saul called him out, or Jimmy called him out on before, is take off the space blanket, take off the space blanket. So that's when it made me think, okay, it's totally psychosomatic. The blanket is a comfort thing. Then he says to the doctor, do you have something electrical in your pocket? Like he could sense it.
Right. Yeah. See, that's where I was like, oh man, okay. So this is the scene where it shows that he's
Right.
like,
It's legit.
It's legit. Yeah. And I was like, ah, damn it. And then she turns on the bed as
He had no idea.
right.
Yeah.
And Kim thought that was a dirty trick, but she's like, no, it's not a trick. That's a demonstration. Like it's totally
Right. Yeah.
mental.
He had no idea that. So that was a little sneaky little bit of movie trick magic when he guessed the thing, but the thing showed the thing is not the thing.
Right. And we learned that Chuck has been out of the law firm for 18 months.
Yeah. A year and a half now.
So he started feeling those symptoms 2 years prior, he said. So it had to be around 2 years where he started feeling those symptoms like the cold bone pain and nausea and his skin itching.
And Jimmy calling him out and saying, you only get like that when I upset you.
Right. So we're seeing a little bit of guilt in Jimmy. He feels that he's causing, once again, he's causing all the anguish for Chuck.
But he can't explain it to Chuck because Chuck believes what he believes.
Chuck believes it's real, like it's an actual thing.
And your confrontation, this big confrontation you wanted between those guys, they went the other way with it. Where it was just two guys sitting there going, well, what the fuck more can I say?
Right, yeah. I was kind of hoping for a blow up, but it just never came to be.
No, it's just that partnership where just you're done explaining yourself to the other person, and who knows, I don't know how they're going to go about it, because it's going to happen.
Right.
It seems like this is going to break through, but maybe not.
I did like how the appearance of Howie Hamlin coming into the hospital.
Yeah,
that was great. That was I like how we finally, it was all put on the table. Jimmy was saying, Howie, you just want to say that it's an actual physical real ailment, so you don't have to buy him out of the law firm.
He's saying that you don't want to call him that. You don't want to say it's mental, because that means Chuck's unable to take care of himself. That makes Jimmy power of attorney or his legal guardian. Then Jimmy gets to do what he wants to do, which is buy Chuck out of the law firm, which his golden goose would be missing.
Right.
As he said.
So Jimmy states that he's taken Chuck home. And then he has the confrontation with Howie Hamlin. And he states, well, you know what? Now you've made up my mind. I'm committing him.
Which, during the conversation, Jimmy mentions that he likes to go out and buy milk and bread for Chuck. So
he did have milk. If you guys remember, last week we got a review where a listener made fun of Dave and I because we didn't understand why he didn't have milk. And we made a joke about being lactose intolerant, but we always thought that he had milk.
Yeah.
Right?
So basically, you were right. I don't fucking understand why there isn't any milk.
Right. By the end of the confrontation, it appears as though Jimmy changes his mind.
Right. He was going to have him committed.
Well, he told everybody he was taking him home, and then his confrontation with Howie.
Oh, changes his mind to having him committed.
Right. Like, hey, you know what? You just made up my mind for me. Now I am going to have him committed. And Kim confronted him Like, do you really want to go down this road? And he's like, no, I'm just basically trying to make that asshole sweat. I'm bringing him home. So a little bit of redemption there.
A little bit of lawyering going on there.
Yeah.
Call my bluff. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was nice to see a little bit of redemption that, because Howie's main thing is he's accusing Jimmy of just wanting the money from the cash out.
Right.
And it made him, and his redemption was, well, it's not about the money. I'm trying to take care of my brother. Like, I'm just kind of like, putting the idea in that guy's head to make him nervous. However, I'm really taking him home.
Right.
And then he ends up taking him home.
He takes him home, and then they have their little confrontation that we were just discussing. How it wasn't quite the blow up argument you wanted. It was more the so it wasn't like the big blow up conversation like you wanted, like a newlywed that's still passionate about their relationship. It's more like that couple that's been together for so long they don't even give a shit what the other person has to say. They're just like, you're gonna say what you're gonna say, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. It's all bullshit anyway.
Right. Yeah. like an old married couple.
Right. Even when Jimmy goes on this whole thing about how he's gonna straighten up, he's gonna get his shit together, like I'm legit from now on. And Chuck's just like, whatever.
But one of the good things that came out of that conversation was Jimmy promising to go legit. Because even though they didn't really want to have that conversation, it still kind of spilled out, right? He's like, look, okay, I get it. Like, this newspaper, this caused all this. This is just a little razzmatazz, as they called it. And I'm thinking about specializing in elder law. And Chuck was not impressed by that at all. Chuck was not impressed by that at all.
No. Yeah, that was the whole condescending, oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good,
Yeah, elder law, go get it. And then we cut to the superhero drawing scene.
The superhero drawing scene. I was totally picturing myself back in like 6th grade when I used to draw like costumes and stuff for myself as a superhero. And he's studying Matlock, which
I was thinking, real quick, like Spider-Man, how Peter Parker drew the Spider-Man costume. So he's like your friendly neighborhood Jimmy McGill.
I'm surprised you wouldn't go back to that because you're a pretty huge nerd. You didn't draw yourself with superheroes.
Oh, are you kidding me? I do that now.
I just made Laundry Man the other day.
My wife walks in the room. She's like, really, Brian? Another fucking superhero picture? Like,
this one has a cape.
Right. Like, she gets annoyed by the number of superpowers I have. She's like, do you really need laser eyes when you have X-ray vision?
Have you not gotten to the point where every character just has all superpowers as a superpower?
It's all part of my canon. It's eventually going to get there. I have like comic strips of myself. It's great. But he's
podcaster, the lame superhero. His inspiration was he's sitting there watching Matlock.
Right. And if you're going to go into elder law, what better?
Exactly. That's pretty genius on the writer's part. I never would have thought of nothing like that.
Right. Yeah. No.
Like, what character can old people relate to? I mean, The Simpsons did it a million times, but yeah, Matlock.
Yeah, fucking Matlock, right?
Yeah.
And then it shows the scene where they're carting the Jello through the old people's home, and on the bottom of the Jello, it's
need a will? Call McGill.
Yeah. Such another great slogan.
Man, how many catchphrases is he going to go through? This has become another little fun part of the game. Is just like all these little catchphrases.
Absolutely. So, and then he starts working the crowd.
Yeah.
Walks in looking just
glad
like
handing everybody.
Hugging, like looking for the banker in the game of Monopoly.
Picking up dominoes off the floor and play fair now.
Which was a hilarious segue into his dealings with Mike. Because he kept calling Mike a geezer.
Yeah.
And he's all proud of himself for now finally being an elder law specialist. And he lets Mike know that, hey, you need a will, or, anybody who might need a will written up, I'm your guy.
And he slips him a card. Which apparently will come into play later, which we'll save for the next episode.
Right. Then it shows Mike. What hours does Mike work?
Yeah, no. He works the hours that Jimmy's around.
Right. He's always there during the day.
Always during the day, but this time he leaves at sunup.
Yeah, he shuts it down. And I even made the joke as we were watching. I'm like, does Mike just live in the toll booth? And then when it showed the morning come up, I was like, oh my God, Mike fucking lives in the toll booth. And then it was nice to see him walk away, and he goes to the diner, and then he leaves, and he's parked outside
Parked outside a house.
Parked outside a house, and a woman comes out. She drives down. They make eye contact.
Uncomfortable eye contact. And one of those, like, something's up. They have a history, but they don't hate each other. Or, it's not threatening because she just drove away. Just kind of, whatever. Right.
Well, you made, because Mike's there to take care of his granddaughter. You thought it might be Mike's daughter or Mike's son's wife.
Yes, I'm thinking that was the mother of his granddaughter.
The mother of his granddaughter.
Yes.
And maybe because of his past in Philly, maybe she's not comfortable having him around because, maybe.
Well, all we ever know of that is there was a violent altercation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's why he was no longer with the force.
Right. So maybe that's what forced into retirement
right.
And maybe that's why she's uncomfortable with him because we'll find like maybe the gory details of him. He finally crossed the line and she knows that. So even though she's her daughter's grandfather is not comfortable with him around the granddaughter.
Right. Or we're completely way off base.
But I
like that theory. We're going to go with that theory. If you have any other theories, obviously let us know because that's one thing that I'm super interested to hear what you guys have to say about what the hell was that with the Mike and the lady.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Mike.
And then the cops show up at Mike's house and Mike says, "You're a long way from home." So only can assume they're from Philly.
Right. And obviously he was very nervous because he grabbed a baseball bat before, he looks out the window, sees people pull up. He grabs the bat ready to defend himself, opens the door, and
kind of like the opening scene to the show when Saul, Gene, the manager of Cinnabon, sees the guy walk up and, he's expecting that. He's expecting somebody to approach him about something, but you just don't know what.
Right.
So, yeah, he grabs his implement of self-defense and proceeds to open the door.
So I just wanted to touch base on a couple listener things, Dave.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, first off, I want to say what's up to the OG, specifically members Bam 57 Bam, Steven 1547, the marvelous one, Sodomized by Cather's Wood, and guess what? Chicken Butt and Meow. These are all people that I talk with back and forth on a Better Call Saul thread that I'm involved with. And I wanted to give them a shout out.
Consider yourselves outshouted. Or as I like to call it, shouted.
Also, one of our listeners, Dominic Healy, noticed that the first 4 episodes show title ended in O.
Right.
And this totally messed it up for him. Because it was Alpine.
Alpine Shepherd Boy.
Alpine Shepherd Boy. So, sorry, Dominic Healy. I thought you had something going too. Until I saw the title for this episode, but I just wanted to give you a shout out. Thank you so much for listening and participating. That means so much to Dave and I.
Yep, and I'm going to one up you real quick. This is also the first episode title that isn't disyllabic.
Disyllabic, and what does that mean, Dave?
That means consisting of 2 syllables. Thank you, Google. Uno, mijo, nacho, hero. 2 syllables.
Nice.
Disyllabic.
And last thing, listener Bill Monroe kind of made a funny correlation between Betsy Kettleman and Marie Schrader. How they're both just kind of, they both sidestep their criminal intent by like unique rationalizations. And they're also pretty smug and tend to demean the people that they're talking to.
Yeah, kind of uppity bitches that control their husbands, but their husbands react oppositely to them.
That's true. Yeah, Hank was more stern, I guess, than...
And just sometimes wouldn't even acknowledge her shit.
Right. Absolutely. So, Bill, thank you so much for writing in.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of that comparison because they're both characters that I hate.
Mm-hmm.
They're both a couple of bitches. Or biznatches, as Tuco would hate.
Yeah, there you go. Indeed. So that is going to wrap it up. Once again, thanks to everybody who writes in and lets us know your thoughts. Once again, this is just as much your podcast as it is our podcast. Dave and Brian, we're your buddies on the couch that want to talk with you after the show. So any ideas you might have, predictions, theories, suggestions, send them in to us and we'll try to fit them into the show. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, or even at our own website. It's saulgoodman.com. And while you're on the internet, why don't you check out our buddies at calltosaul.com. They have all sorts of reviews, editorials. Make sure to check them out.
Call us idiots, call us geniuses, whatever. Just call us.
You heard me. You better call Saul. You best call now, you hear?